Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 22nd edition of Trips and Traps on an absolutely glorious first day of autumn. It seems like yesterday, Ernie, Munick, Richard Migliore, we were sweltering under the haze and heat of a humid August day in Saratoga, but here we are at beautiful Belmont Park.
It's my favorite season, Mick. And it's my favorite racing and my favorite season. And I know it wasn't that long ago that you enjoyed circling that paddock and winning major races here at Belmont.
Love the autumn meet here at Belmont Park, although there was usually a little bit of a almost Saratoga-esque hangover first week or two back. But I got past that. I hit a bear. A lot happened in between. But we're back and Trips and Traps, and we got a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right in. Interestingly enough, a lot of dirt races this week. Normally we're more turf. Well, we got some dirt races to talk about, and we're going to start September 14th, race 9, and we are looking at number 1A, Contraction. You're going to see Contraction back here. First-time starter from the Linda Rice barn, a bit green. And this is a turf race, just so people don't get the wrong idea.
Yes, and you know, Mig, often when I watch these races, I think of you and questions I want to ask you. And here's a situation, and we're all watching the 1A, where Jose's asking a bit here. And you're going to see the head is high, and there's some, and I'll let you describe that. But he's asking a bit, not getting, but he'll get later on. So that's where I want to ask why and what's happening right now.
Well, this horse just seems very green to me. Carrying the head high, maybe could be aided by a shadow roll, an equipment change, something to get him to drop his head. I think even though there's not a lot of kickback on the grass, some turf does fly.
Yeah, I can see that there, a little bit of that.
Horse seemed a bit resentful, and he's getting after him. This is definitely a horse that I think is going to appreciate stretching out, and we're going to keep an eye on. We don't want to confuse it with the entry, which is right in front of him. This is the horse we're watching here. And I think this horse actually gets outside and does some subtle running the last 3/16 of a mile.
Right here, Mig, it turns over and there's acceleration. It's so, and yet there was no acceleration, at least to get into the game, when he was trying on the backside. Why in the stretch and not at the half-mile, Paul?
Well, I just think being green, not really understanding what he's there for. I think the light will go on with a run. A horse almost has to go like, oh, wait a second, this is what you want from me? And that's the impression I got from this horse. He just wasn't quite understanding of why he was there. Now, horses can work in the mornings, but there's nothing like a race to move a horse forward.
It's interesting. There's no, who knows when they get bumped. When they have horses looking at them and the ears are going back, it's a completely different ball.
I want to see Contraction stretch out 7/8 to a mile next time, and I think this horse will be a horse to keep an eye on.
Cool. We will watch.
We'll turn the page. We're going to go on to September 16th, race 6. We are looking at number 7, another first-time starter here on the turf, Distorted Admiral. Horse broke well, and we're going to see the yellow colors in here with Jackie Davis aboard. And this is the horse we're going to keep an eye on. And this horse, to me, ran green also. Another horse that probably will be aided by the race and had somewhat of a difficult trip, maybe because she didn't have enough run, but a horse that definitely can improve, and was 52-1 this time.
Yeah, we have a string of long shots coming at you, and whether the next time is the time as a winner or in your vertical bets as far as supers and triples go, keep it in mind. This is a horse, Mig, who was in the thrust of this race every step of the race. This was no let up. He wasn't too far back. He wasn't too close. He was in this mix for a barn that had an excellent Saratoga, being Carlos Martin. He kept making moves, and he never stopped giving, and he's bothered a bit in the stretch. Yeah,
and like you said, amongst horses, in the thick of it, in between, in behind, and still game, still kind of holding his position. I think at some point, though, like maybe starts to tire a bit, and you're going to see the 4-horse here kind of lug in on top of this horse a little bit, and kind of, you'll see right when they're getting to the wire, this horse isn't quitting. He's still trying to catch the 6-horse here. And in tight in between horses. This horse very easily should have been 4th, was beating a nose for 4th. And you think about it, I mean, a horse that was 2-1 outside of Forge from the Chad Brown barn, this horse is beating a nose, bothered somewhat. You got to think with this effort, this horse is going to go forward.
You would think so. And, even if it's I'm not even so sure high-priced maiden claimers are the answer. Maybe in a weak enough maiden special, may get lucky, Different strategy, maybe not even, but a different tact as far as maybe taking back more, whatever it is. An interesting horse with a pedigree that does not scream turf.
Well, I think there's a theme of this show, and it's about first-time starters and how much having a race helps them. Now, there's an old adage, a race equals about 5 workouts. Well, I think in some of these, maybe even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it on in some of these turf races where they almost come back, Mig, like, what did I do? Was I okay? Did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
They almost look confused after, some of them.
I think this is another horse that you want going forward, particularly if you're getting somewhat of a price.
Yeah,
I mean, you got
no
52 to 1 here. If you get 20 to 1 next time, I'd be happy.
Yeah, very interesting horse to follow.
All right, let's move on. Actually, we had more turf racing than I thought here. I was thinking for some reason we had more dirt, but we're looking at number 3, another first-time starter. This one from the Migliore barn. Number 3, Profiteer. Breaks well. Jose Lezcano does the right thing, kind of rides this horse out of the gate to put this horse in some position. Particularly on the inner turf, you want to get some position.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me, Mig, is that here Lezcano also rode the Linda Rice horse who was trying to get him in. There was no response. Here, get him in the game early, as you love to see.
Well, he got him in the game early, but then when he took a hold of him, it was like the horse almost kind of spitted a little bit. This horse taking his direction almost too literally.
Very interesting. So now it's even a case of jockey and horse getting to know each other.
Well, I think so, and particularly with a young horse making its first start, you ask him to go. All right, he wants to go. Now you want him to rate. You take a hold. Oh, you want me to stop? And he gives it all back. Not a lot of continuity with that, but I think with a race under his belt, because this horse you're going to see as we go further, he kind of gets shuffled back out of it and then comes running again when he had every right to say, well, I'm done now.
Mig, it seems to me that would be a good thing that a horse can turn off or not whenever you want, at least moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. You just don't want it to be too much of either way. You don't want to ask him to have him get real rank. You don't want to take a hold of him and have him really back up. Now, you see, he's actually got good position, and Jose's asking him here to hold his ground, and he's down here on the inside. But it looks to me like the horse starts getting a bit tentative. And now you got to understand, this is a point in a race where they've already run 3/4 of a mile. Horses are starting to get a little bit tired. So now you're going to see he kind of ducks into the hedge. He steadies there. He changed leads back and forth. He's basically last at this point.
About 6 lengths off the lead?
6 lengths off the lead, and he's probably a bit of a tired horse at this point. If he would have just threw in the white towel then, you would have said, okay. But look, he comes rallying back again. And this is what points him out to me as a horse that you want going forward.
Yeah, this is very interesting. When I saw this race, and I was my eye was kind of taken by another horse in there who was coming from far back, and I kind of missed this one. And when you told me about this horse, and I watched it again, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's a sneaky one. He finished better. I don't remember him finishing like that.
Well, I thought he finished when he had every right to just give up, and I think this horse, and particularly from the barn he's coming from, Migliore's horses get better with racing.
Amazing.
This horse has ability. This, out of all the horses we watched today, is the one I'm most excited about coming back.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing him run again.
All right, we'll go on now. September 17th again, race 5, and now we get to some dirt racing. And this is one that you pointed out to me, another big long shot, Shades of Night, number 7. And the gray horse here broke pretty well for a first-time starter. Big price here, 47.5 to 1. Don't
by
forget
general
that
quarters. But so you have a kind of a humble pedigree, relatively speaking, from a barn, Joe Mazza barn, against our biggest names. What's he doing here, and what's going to happen?
Well, I got to tell you, this horse acted pretty professional for his first start. He's taking Eric Cancel. He climbed a little bit here, I thought, from the kickback, but then he settled down. He took it. He learned in about 1/8 of a mile that it was okay. It wasn't hurting him. I thought this horse ran extremely well, and you're going to see he's going to get pushed out in the stretch. But
he was bumped at the start as well. He
bumped
did take
at the start, yeah, which I didn't think was terrible.
It
was kind of incidental almost.
Sure,
but I think that this horse continued and he stayed on. And from let's be honest, lower profile connections.
Sure,
this horse will probably improve a great deal fitness wise and from a mental standpoint with the race. Now you see he gets pushed out here a little bit. He's on the far outside. Stays on his wrong lead, which is a bit of a greenness. But if he caved in here, no one would have thought twice about it. The fact that he kind of stayed on and continued.
And, Mig, what we're going to see in about 30, let him go by the wire. We see he's on the outside. He's still grinding away on the wrong lead. And then we're going to see something very interesting in the head-on, something about the equipment. And did this horse possibly lose some velocity or not with a loose, is it a saddle cloth or the thing underneath it?
Well, here's the horse. I'm going to make a big circle, okay? This is Shades of Night. Keep your eye on right in here. That is part of the pad that goes underneath the saddle, goes underneath the saddle towel, and they just had too much of the pad in front of the saddle. So it's creating some drag there. You want to talk about wind resistance in a day and age where they've got aerodynamic silks, and we talk about, wind resistance.
Oh, man.
This is definitely, I think, creating drag. It's catching the wind.
Mig, swimmers shave their armpits. That's the level that these athletes take it to. You have to think. I don't know how much it costs, Mig. Did it have any effect? You think I love your reaction to it, but that was something you don't see that often.
I think it definitely had an effect. He was beating a half a length for third. Excuse me. I think it created some drag. He looked like he was drifting that way. Maybe the wind's pulling him a bit that way. He's on his wrong lead. There's a lot of things that they can do better, and this horse can go forward off of this race.
This is fun.
And
yeah.
I personally, if I was on a horse and they saddled him that way and I had too much pad in front of me, I'd go to the gate and have him resaddled.
Isn't that
Because
something?
I don't want these wind flaps, basically. And sometimes it'll be even on both sides. This was just on one side. Got to be careful. Everything counts, particularly when you talk about a lot of races decided by noses.
That's how they land a plane. They put the flaps up.
Slow you down,
To
right?
slow you down. It's really very interesting, and these are the kind of details that you don't that make this game so much fun.
And it makes Trips and Traps fun.
Exactly.
Let's turn the page. Our last race here on Trips and Traps, September 17th, race 8. We are looking at number 7, Adirondack Posse. 63.5 to 1. We're bringing you bombs. If any of these come back and win, we only need one of them to win.
That's it.
And here we're looking at this horse right here under Aaron Grider. Now, I have some questions for you, Ernie.
Go ahead.
I think this horse ran well.
Yes.
I thought Aaron did a good job saving ground. Where can he make up the difference?
I'm not sure. Well, first of all, first answer, maybe at Aqueduct because that's the track he loves.
Okay.
2 is, do I think he's better than these horses off this race? No. Do I think he's that far behind them that with the right trip and with some trouble for a favorite or 2 or 3 that he can make up that difference, or they regress and he can win at a big price? Yes, if he can maintain his form, because as you'll see from here, Mig, he is not that far off these horses and should not be 63 to 1.
Well, I'll tell you what I like as we now run it and look for it. I like the fact that he took Aaron. He traveled into the race in the bridle. He wasn't having to ride him in there. Now, you saw Aaron pull some goggles down there. He's getting killed with dirt, kickback. It affects how the rider can ride him. It affects how the horse can run. And you can see he's still carrying him into the race. You can see Aaron reach up for a pair of goggles again here. He's a little bit in tight, coming up someplace in here. I noticed it. And again, just his line of vision is not exactly as clean as you'd like it to be. Now Aaron's going to set him down, try to cut the corner. Right there, he pulled those goggles down. I think this horse ran sneaky well. My question, I think, is saving ground was a good thing or a bad thing here?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, Mig. Seriously, because 10 minutes ago, I was going to say to you and to the people, I'm still deciding how the rail was and the outside was on these days. It's debatable still. I'm not sure yet. It can go either way, but I do feel strongly that the price is ridiculous compared to the way he ran. He belongs in that mix, even for being in on deep tickets, not necessarily to win the race. And, if he comes back next time and he's 9 to 1 or 8 to 1, or even 10 to 1, I'm not going to get excited about the horse. It's not a big trip. But if he continues to be ignored like that, I'm going to use, because anything can happen with a rough trip to the favorites.
Well, I also think this was a particularly deep New York bred allowance race. I thought they ran fast. The horses that ran 1-2 were 1-2 around the racetrack.
That's a good one.
That
helps the case as well.
So I think maybe a little bit easier.
Little easier.
Because this was extremely tough. Jet Black, Canada, these horses really ran. West Hills Giant dropping out of much tougher races.
Yes.
I don't think you always get New York bred allowance races this loaded. And let me ask you this. What distance? Same distance? Shorter? Longer?
I don't even have a problem with the distance, and I know it might not be next. This is how I'm going to handle it, wrong or right. I am going to use this horse the next, say, 2, maybe 3 or 2 times, and follow along, hoping for another one of those whether that was the best he can do or not, and that the favorites regress a little. Maybe the track's more in his favor. Maybe not, and the price has to be right.
Well, for me, the biggest thing is the winner and the second place finisher ran 1-2 around the track. This horse did make a run. Huge price. If he's a big price next time, I won't let him beat me.
Okay.
I will definitely have some insanity insurance going on. No doubt about it. And right or wrong, we are Richard Migliore, Ernie Munick, Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com. We can always use your help.